used to be that if you wanted like some nice looking Bluetooth headphones, fully kitted out with like ANC modes and a companion app for extra features, you had to shell out maybe hundreds of dollars for a Bose set or a Sony 1000X M4 or 5, whatever. God, Sony's naming scheme just drives me nuts. Trickle-down economics has blessed us though with some cheap cans that are nearly as good, but at a fraction of the price. Enter the Fiio EH13, which you can snag for 30 bucks, sometimes even 20 if you're a bargain hunter who knows where to find the right coupons. Let's see if these headphones will serve all of your casual wireless needs for literal pennies on the dollar. Fiio definitely skimped on the unboxing. The cardboard walls are thin, and mine arrived looking like it went through a war zone. Thankfully, the headphones inside survived just fine. It's nestled in a plastic insert with the cups wrapped in nylon. You get a USB-C charging cable, a 3.5mm cable if you want to go wired, and a fairly detailed manual that points you towards the Fiio Control companion app. The EH13 definitely looks quite charming, I think. Definitely inspired by Sony and Bose, with that sort of clean and minimalist look, rather than like a techie, quote-unquote, audiophile aesthetic. Now I've got this ivory, or you could say it's like a cream colored option, which I think is quite stylish, and it was the cheaper option, but you can also grab the EH13 in a sleek black color. There's a status light on the right cup. With some codec choices, I think it stays lit up whilst you're playing music. In other codecs, it doesn't. Some folks will like that, some will hate it, it'll depend on you. The controls are all clustered on the right side, and it's fairly easy to use. There's gonna be a mode switch button, a play pause, and the volume rockers. The buttons have slightly different shapes, so after a few days, you can pretty much navigate them by feel. The cups themselves, they can swivel, and the hinge collapses the headphone itself into like half its original size for storage. But honestly, folding this in half doesn't really save much space. And the swivel mechanism, it just feels a bit as you can see, it's a bit too loose and floppy. Ergonomics on here are a slight compromise too. So if you see here on my Minecraft Steve head, the bottom of the cups, they clamp down my ears well, but then the top part, it bows out slightly because there's no hinge to tilt the cup inwards, something that the newer Jade Audio JN3 seems to have fixed. Now the clamp force on this is a bit aggressive out of the box, but after a few weeks of using it, stretching the headband out, it fits me just right. Budget headphones sometimes cheap out on the ear pads, giving you like this deflated garbage that feels stiff and it offers no seal. But thankfully, Fiio gave us some nice ear pads. These are soft, they're plush, and thick enough that my ears don't scrape the driver wall, and they also seal quite decently. This material, it does seem to absorb my body oils though, so we'll have to see long term if it starts like flaking off into really gross bits or something. Battery life is advertised at 72 hours, so that's 3 days of battery on these. In real use with ANC on and LDAC, I managed about 2 days just leaving this thing playing music. I think with no ANC and maybe a lower intensity codec, you can probably get the full 3 days out of this, which I think would be more than enough. The EH13 interfaces with the Fiio Control app, which lets you cycle through different ANC levels. Level 1 offers a slight muffling down of everything. Level 2 targets humming noise like AC units or engine noise. And then level 3 actually knocks voices down a peg as well. It becomes like maybe 60% of your normal volume. Note that this ANC mode, it does introduce a bass boost to compensate, which I think makes sense. You know, in a noisy environment, it's gonna be harder for your ears to perceive bass. So I think it's a good choice to boost the bass a little bit. and it works well for people who wear glasses like me as well. This ANC won't like blow your mind like a pricier set, but I think it's very usable and maybe just only slightly behind the more expensive stuff. But transparency mode, however, that one's pretty weak. It's like barely better than turning ANC off. So I'm hoping Fiio pushes an update to give us like higher levels to crank up the transparency noise filtering into the headphone. You've got good codec support, including LDAC, but I think the real meat here is gonna be the PEQ settings. This is where Fiio's audiophile DNA really shows through. It's a full 10-band EQ with gain control, Q curves to dictate how wide or narrow your EQ adjustment can be, and filter types like a high pass, low pass, and many others. It's a very well-featured PEQ suite for just $30. However, as a version, I think it's 1.2, Fiio control is kind of an unstable, buggy mess. It's reminiscent of Moondrop Link from like a few years ago. Sometimes the EQ screen, it just won't load, requiring you to do a forced restart. There's auto EQ integration, which is a really cool idea, but it works like once in a blue moon, and I could not get it to load and work properly ever since the first or second time I used it. There's an EQ marketplace to get user presets if you sign up, but the verification email was in Chinese and it took so long to arrive that I think I had to re-register like 2 or 3 times until it worked. And why does my ivory headphone show up as black in the app? I mean, yeah, I'm nitpicking, but I don't know. I think the small stuff like this kind of matters, you know? I think there's just way too much jank for Fiio control right now. They knocked the hardware out of the park, but I think the software needs some serious work. The wonky app aside, the sound on these are actually honestly impressive for $30. Fiio went with an easy to like V-shaped tuning that's fun for casual listening. It's balancing a sort of energetic tuning with this budget driver's inherent limits. Bass is fairly impactful with a bit more mid-bass than the sub-bass energy. That stays well controlled though. It rumbles when it's needed without bleeding into the mids. Now Kanye's Field Trip sounds great on these, like you've got the slow rolling bass lines that are given proper weight and an extended decay. Mids are more of a mixed bag. Forgiving tracks like Me You by Clavita and Alice, they sound sufficiently warm with nice, sweet female vocals and a sort of ethereal feeling. It plays this song really well. But then male vocalists like Michael Bublé in Feeling Good, well, on these headphones, he comes off just a little suppressed and tonally off. I'm not saying it's like offensive or anything, it's just slightly off. Treble is conservative, but I think there's enough sparkle to keep things clear, and you have a bit of definition for the instruments and a bit of zing on the drums. It's not a unique tuning, but I think this will do quite well for the sort of mainstream lifestyle tech demographic that will buy into this headphone. If you select the user option on the PEQ screen, you get a sort of flat EQ that reveals the driver's raw sound without any of Fiio's adjustments. And honestly, it's not a bad choice. It's darker than the stock sound with more bass quantity, but mid-range is noticeably recessed here. Vocals, they'll sound a bit stuffy, a bit pulled back. But once your ears adjust to that, it's actually quite decent for like long, non-fatiguing listening sessions. Just be sure to pull back the preamp slider a little bit, because at higher volumes and with the more bassier tracks, the driver here starts to crackle and distort. This is probably why Fiio dialed back the mid-bass in their default tuning. So like I said before, I could not get auto EQ to work. So I just played around with the sliders on the PEQ myself until things sounded good to my ears. I kept the blueprint overall similar to the stock sound, but I let a bit more of the mid bass through, get that warmth going, whilst cutting the 62 Hz zone to keep that distortion in check. I also boosted the upper mids and the treble a bit more aggressively for a more crisp and engaging sound, but driver still hits its limits occasionally, and there's definitely some distortion and crackling going on. But feel free to play with like the preamp and the volume levels to fine tune that one. Now I've uploaded my settings onto the EQ marketplace for the Fiio Control app, so you can try it out and tell me what you think about it. I expected the sound quality to take a hit given that the EH13 is like a wireless product, but no. I was genuinely surprised by the technical foundations here. Macro details are well separated. On some occasions, it matches or even slightly edges out my old Audio-Technica AD500X. Granted, that's not like a flagship headphone or anything, but for casual listening on a $30 wireless set, like, the sound quality is actually really impressive. Just don't come in expecting some mind-blowing audiophile resolution. That's not gonna be here. For about 80 bucks, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on where you shop, the Tanchjim Rita is a little bit more costly, but is it worth the extra money over the EH13? Well, the cups on the Rita are a little smaller, and there's no folding mechanism either. However, there's a ball joint on the cup of the Rita with some limited swivel that helps it grip my ears better. The EH13 though, it has more plush and nicer feeling ear pads though. App-wise, the Tanchjim app is just leagues better than what Fiio cooks up. The UI is a bit more refined, and the best thing is you don't have random bugs where it just doesn't apply your preset and you have to restart the app. You press a button, it just works. The Rita also has 12 PEQ bands instead of 10 on the Fiio. ANC on both of these headphones are pretty similar, but I will give the Fiio a slight win because it has a slightly better passive seal on its plush pads. Transparency on both also kind of meh, but I think Tanchjim this time edges out slightly with just a bit more transparency volume. Now sound-wise, on the stock and balanced presets, the Rita just presents a more refined tuning. And I also liked this diffuse field tuning preset from the user-generated EQ session. The Rita feels like, I would say like a Tanchjim Bunny, but brought into headphone form. It's fairly neutral and relaxed sounding with smooth vocal performance and a well-extended but not excessive treble. The EH13 though is a lot more bombastic with its bass, and it's got sharper upper mids leaning into that V-shaped territory, but it's offering a more fun kind of sound. Technicalities on both are roughly similar though. If you can afford the extra bucks, I think the Rita offers more refinements, which makes it a better product overall. However, I think the EH13 is not so far behind, and it often goes on sale for a lot less than the Rita too. The Sony was the 1000 XM5. I give up on that name. The XM5s, okay? They are pretty much the standard premium Bluetooth headphone to beat. And I think the EH13 puts up a solid fight. For sound, the Sony has a darker tonality, but it's generally quite pleasing. It's warm and bassy, but not so muddy like the older XM4 version. Now, the EH13, on its stock tuning, it has more aggressive upper mids. It's a little brighter overall. The XM5, it may not have PEQ, but the basic 5-band EQ in the app is actually still quite effective. And the app itself, again, it's much more refined. It just works, there's no weird random glitches. The Sony set also has like smart features like adaptive sound to change the sound modes based on your activity. ANC performance on both headphones are quite similar as well. Both are boosting the bass a little bit to compensate for like the noisy environment and your glasses. But transparency on the Sony XM5 is just a whole nother level. There's 20 levels of transparency for you to choose. And the transparency mode, the way it's made, it genuinely sounds like you're not wearing the headphones at all. Like you're just listening to the outside world without any headphones on. Whereas the EH13, it just pipes in like a very small bit of that outside environment. There are slightly better technicalities in the sound quality of the Sony, but the pads are still better on the Fiio. The Sony pads are really like shallow and small. Fiio pads much more thick and plush. I think though the whole package on the XM5, it's a smarter headphone, right? And its features are much better executed. But sound-wise, the EH13 keeps up pretty well, and it's like what, an eighth or a tenth of the price. So I'm pretty sure that's called a major bargain. All right, it's honestly wild that in the big 26, with inflation running rampant, that you can actually get quality audio without spending a ton of cash. Skip a few meals and you can get yourself the Fiio EH13 with all the bells and whistles of a modern wireless headphone, like noise cancellation and transparency modes, high quality LDAC and PEQ support. The design and build quality I think is also quite refined. Like it's definitely punching above its $30 discounted price. And honestly, still very good for the full $50 MSRP. The Fiio Control app, it leaves much to be desired though, with a lot of bugs, localization errors, and stability issues, which hopefully will be ironed out in future updates. Nevertheless, Fiio has crafted a solid foundation in the EH13, providing genuinely great value and redefining just how much tech can be packed into an affordable price. Thank you for watching. Join the Patreon to get extra perks such as my photo presets, which are meant to take off that kind of modern digital camera feeling and restore some vintage vibes to your photos. Join the channel membership to get early access to videos just like these. And if nothing else, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.